Hey coaches, thanks for checking out CoachMattDennis.com. Today we're going to talk about on-the-court success, the 4 keys to a successful basketball program and things that you need to do, on the court to find success year in and year out, be competitive, have a chance to win games. Uh, this is program-wide. We're going to talk about how you implement some of this stuff and why you want to implement some of it. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well, if that's one of those platforms you're on. And then, of course, you can continue to come to CoachMattDennis.com, and we'll be posting stuff here as well. The 4 things that we're going to talk about: defense, offense, transition, and press break. You want to know the staples of your program, know what you want your kids to understand when they get up to your level. Whether you're a junior varsity or a varsity coach, there are certain things that should be staples in your program and in your philosophy, and you want to make sure that you communicate those. So these are the 4 for on-the-court success that, as a whole team and program, you want them all to be on the same page right away. First, we're talking about defense. What's your overall philosophy? Are you a force a middle, force a baseline guy? Are you a zone? Do you like to press? Do you switch defenses? Doesn't matter which one of these you like to use. Do your players know it? And are you starting it as early as possible? If that means at the 9th grade level, start it so they get it 9th, 10th, and then on the varsity, if you have them then, they can continue to run that same system. If you can get it down in the middle school level, start them in the middle school. The more they can get those fundamentals in, the more help side, the more communication, the more on the ball, if you're man-to-man. Those things are critical to finding success later when it counts, when you get up to that varsity level. And then if your players go on to play in college, they'll know and they'll have a good foundation to be able to do those things. If you're a zone coach, have them learn the zone. There's a lot of man-to-man principles in zone, and there's a lot of zone principles in man-to-man. So no matter which way you're going to go, make sure that those fundamental things you want them to do, they know how to guard when the ball's up top, guard the ball in the wing, guard it when it gets into the post. But find the fundamentals that you'd like them to have at a young age, and then each level they move up, add a little bit to it. Have coaches get a little bit more intense, a little bit more specific with it. We've forced baseline for most of my coaching career, although we did run a little bit of pack line early on, but we forced baseline, got some good things out of it. My first year as a high school coach, we were at 11-11, so we had a decent year. They were 3-18 the year before I got there, so a big improvement from the year before. The biggest reason that we weren't better and didn't win more games was our defense wasn't where it needed to be. I threw in a new system. The players were thinking about it instead of reacting to it, and that made it so we were just a step slow on everything. Our communication was slow, our help side was slow, our on-the-ball defense was slow. Second year, we go 19-2, running the same offensive system, the same defensive system. The biggest thing is they knew where to go. They knew how to communicate. They knew how to get there. Half of the team was new from the JV coming up. They had run the same thing. So it wasn't as though they had never seen it. They didn't know what was going on. We actually had to move a player up mid-year from our JV, and since it's the same system, he hopped in. Defensively, we were just fine with that. He had to catch the speed of the game a little bit, but did a tremendous job with it. So those are some of the reasons you want to have that in place rather than having everybody do their own thing. And that makes it really difficult on players to figure out what's going on. If you're a pressing coach, or maybe you like to press and fall back into something, have your teams work on this, even if it's not the same press at every single level, or maybe it is. Have them work on pressing and then falling back into your man-to-man or your zone defense. That's a skill set that they need to have and be able to do in a game without thinking about it. If they're thinking about what defense are we going to, or we're falling back into something, where am I supposed to be? The earlier they start doing it, the more comfortable they're going to be, the more success you'll find on defense. Next is offense. And this isn't an exhaustive list by any means, but offensively, you got to have a philosophy as to what do you want your players to get into when you can't call the play or when things break down. For us, we've run the read and react. The last few years, we ran dribble drive when I coached in college because I could recruit players into that system. Don't have that same talent every single year to be successful there, so we changed the read and react. But when things are going wrong, when the point guard's not comfortable with what they see, there's no fast break maybe, they bring it out and we call out our Bulldog offense. We run read and react. Everybody is comfortable with it. They run it in the middle school levels, they run at the 9th, 10th graders, and then when they get to the varsity, it's just kind of something that we're going to be doing all the time. We also throw in there some of the flex, the shuffle, the ball screen stuff. Every year I pick something just a little bit different, but it changes the pace of the game. So if we're running read and react where there are no screens or hardly any screens being set, now we're running the flex and there's screens all over the place that a defense has to be able to adjust to. So by running that, it changes the pace of the game, makes the defenders have to guard us in a different way, and create some great opportunities. The third thing I look at is you're taking a look at what personnel do you have? Do you have a great shooter? So running some box sets to get some shooters open. Do you have some great post play? So maybe a 1-4 high or a horn set to get a guy open in the post. We throw in some of that stuff to be able to isolate some of those key players that have a skill set that is just something that needs to be highlighted in our game to give us the best chance at winning. So that's the way we do it, three-pronged approach. Run some read and react, run some flex or some shuffle, and then we mix in some of those sets in there. Whatever works for you, but make sure you have something that your players are comfortable going to without you calling a timeout or without a stoppage in play where you can organize them. They need to do that on their own. That's something a point guard should have. Next for our offense is our zone offense. What are you running if somebody throws a 2-3 or a 1-3-1 on you right away? Do you need to get a timeout to get your kids set, or can they get organized into it right away? A general rule of thumb is if it's an odd front, then you want to run an even front offensive attack against it. So if it's a 1-3-1 or a 3-2, you've got a two-guard attack that you're going to go against it. If they have an even front, so they're running a 2-3, then you want to attack it with a one-guard offensive front. So we're going to attack it with what we call one out. The continuity offenses, a lot of movement, get defenses having to adjust and having to figure out where players are coming from, making sure that they're stopping the lanes or getting into the passing lanes or getting a hand up. If you have players with similar skill sets or the similar size, this is a great offense to run. If you have kids who aren't real good ball handlers, who aren't real good shooters, you can get them in trouble because they get in a position where they're not comfortable. So that's something you got to know your team to know if continuity will work for you. The high-low and the too-low tell my post players what to do. So if we're going against an odd front, say it's a 3-2, we would go 2 out, high-low. So I know that I've got 2 guards up top, and then my 4 and my 5 are going to be in the high-low action. Too low tells them my bigs are going to be on the block. They're going to be in the short corner area. They may flash to the high post, but it's not just a high-low. It's going to be some movement in there. And then finally the overload, where you're trying to overload one side and get some action, because in a zone they can't guard everybody. They've got to guard their specific area, so you're going to overload that side and make them make a decision as to who they want to guard and who they want to leave open. So these are all areas of zone offense that, again, not exhaustive, but pick what you like to do so that your guards can get your team set up when a zone is thrown on you after a free throw, after a timeout. It shouldn't be something that you've got to scramble around and do. Your guys should be able to do that because you've taught them how to do it. They've started it maybe at the freshman level, and they're working on their way up to the varsity, so they're very comfortable with it. Next is transition. So we've got 2 types of transition here, and this is an area where sometimes teams don't have a philosophy. They've got the offense and the defense down, but what do you do in between those things? So offensively, when you get a rebound and you're going to go out on the break, what exactly are you hoping your players do? Do they have certain responsibilities? In a numbered break, they'd have specific spots that they're going to go to, and they have to get there. They got to bust their can to get ahead of the ball and get to those spots. A fast break is going to be where you've got some lanes to fill, but it doesn't matter who fills them. Somebody's got to fill it. First one there, you're sprinting that lane, we're getting the ball out, and we're trying to get it go as fast as we can. The get it and go is a mentality where anybody on the floor, or maybe you have one person that's not a dribbler, so they don't do it, but the other 4 guys, whoever rebounds it, if you have an advantage, you just dribble it and you go. You try to push the ball as fast as you can, get ahead of the defense. Not necessarily a point guard running a fast break or a numbered break. It's any player who's got the ball can take it. Then there's early offense and ball reversal. What happens when you don't get the layup or the easy shot? Are you running some action right away to try to find an advantage, or are you just set up your offense? Early offense would give you a quick hitter of some kind to try to see if you can still get an advantage because the defense isn't quite set. They're not quite where they need to be to stop you. Ball reversal is you didn't get the layup. You're going to swing the ball. You're going to skip it. You're going to get it to the other side of the floor to see if the defense can rotate, or to see if you have a drive or an easy shot because they're not quite ready for that action. So 2 ways at the end of your transition on offense to try to still get something. But have something in place so you're not just getting the ball, walking it up, having to set up a half-court offense every single time. Because if you don't have great shooters or a great half-court offensive team, that can slow you down, and it means that you'll have trouble putting points up on the board. Defensively, what are you doing in transition to stop people? Do you have certain responsibilities? Is it man-to-man where they're finding their man, they're matching up, and wherever your man is, you're going to get him on the court? So it doesn't really matter where you are, you've got to find your person. Is it a lane matchup where you have certain responsibilities to stop people in your lane? It doesn't matter who's there. It just matters that you're there to stop whomever is in the lane with you. And then finally, the zone matchup where you have one or two players pick up the ball possibly, and the other three players are back in a kind of a zone formation, knowing that, hey, I've got to stop the ball, I've got to protect the rim, I've got to get out to a shooter. But it's three guys kind of acting like a three-man zone until your one and your two can get back and they can help, get everything organized in your regular man-to-man or your zone defense. All three of these will work. There's nothing there that is better than the other. It's whatever your philosophy is. Make sure your kids know it so you know how to stop the runs from the other team. You can't let them get on a 6-8 point run and then hope to come back. You need to be able to get back, slow the ball, stop them, make them get in their half court. Teams score less in the half court when they have to set up a play than they do when they're in transition, especially those teams who really love pushing the ball. Lastly, we have a press break. And this is an area that I think a lot of teams have trouble with, because when somebody is going to press and they know it, they're good. But if you throw on a press after a made shot, after a free throw, or maybe it's just an out-of-bounds play and you're going to press them, they kind of look around like, oh no, what do we do? Because you didn't know it was coming. So the press break, are you just a get the ball in bounds type of coach where somebody grabs it, let's get it in before they can set it up, and we'll go from there? Or maybe you're, hey, we'll get it into somebody. It doesn't have to be our point guard, but then let's get it to our point guard so they can get the offense set up on the half court. So those two things are very reactionary, and they don't lead you to buckets real easily. The third one, which is the one that we've used the most, is to create an advantage and score. Our press break has the same person taking the ball out of bounds. The two-man runs the same route every time. The five runs the same route every single time. Our one is in the same spot every time. And we can attack a 1-2-2, a 2-2-1, a diamond and one, a man-to-man. No matter what we see, our guys are in a position. Now, there are some different things that they have to know, but if you've started this in your, say, your ninth grade level or even below, this year we started it with our sixth graders, running some of the basic stuff, then they'll know where their teammate's going to be, where the next pass is going to be. They won't dribble themselves into a trap or into trouble. The pass is always faster than the dribble, so we promote that a ton with our guards. Get it up. If the guy's in the right spot, in their lane where they need to be, get the ball to them. The last thing I'll say about press breaks, a lot of times you see people running back towards the ball. They run back to get the ball in bounds. Well, if they're running towards the ball, then they're not going towards the hoop where you're scoring. You want to put your kids in a position to be going towards the hoop where they're going to be shooting the ball. I love it when I see teams running back to the ball, because that means that if I put on a press, or I know my press, I'm going to have a good opportunity to make them play all 94 feet. They're not going to create an advantage on me. At the very least, I'll set up my half-court offense. When I see teams who are constantly pushing the ball, trying to create 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s, that's when our press has some pressure put on it. That's when we've got to be at our best, because they're looking to create an advantage and they're looking to score every single time down the floor. That's a lot harder to play defensively against, but it's a lot more fun on the offensive side if you're the one who's going in and scoring layups and getting easy shots. So have that press break, drill it in them, make sure that they know that right away so a press never surprises you. These are the 4 things that it takes to be successful year in and year out, game in and game out. Make sure that you're competitive. And this is stuff that's on the court that your kids need to have ingrained in them. They need to have the verbiage. They need to have the sequence. They need to have the routes that you want them to run and the looks that you want to have them get right away, so that when they get to your level, you're coaching the effort, you're coaching the attitude, you're not coaching just execution. Because when it's all execution, then the attitude and the effort seem to go the other direction, because they're thinking about it or they're trying to figure out or ask questions. You want them to know some of this basics right away. That way you can work on the more advanced stuff, and you can get the effort and the attitude that you need to find success and competitiveness every day and every year that you have a team. So thanks again for coming to CoachMattDennis.com. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I look forward to working with you and giving you some more great information. Thanks.